Hello, my name is Nicholas Poland, and today we are discussing the types of classrooms a teacher might expect in the 21st century. Are you confused about what type of classroom you want or what the different types have to offer? Well, today we will be answering that question for you. Our main discussions will be over what traditional and online classrooms are like, what they look like, what similarities and difference they have, what strengths and weaknesses each method possess, and what are some examples of what a successful version of these classes look like using a history class as an example. First, let's look at what these classes are. So, what is a traditional classroom? Traditional classrooms are recognized as instructional learning completed entirely in face-to-face encounters between instructors and students within a physical classroom. What is an online or virtual classroom? The virtual classroom offers the student an autonomous, self-paced learning environment where the teacher or professor guides or facilitates the classroom pedagogy but is ultimately self-directed. Now, what are the similarities and differences between online and traditional classrooms? Now to what are the similarities between online and traditional learning? Both online and traditional can have active learning through similar assignments such as group work, simulations, case studies, problem-solving exercises, and role-playing. Both require immediate feedback from the teacher to the student, and also both need the teacher to know their students to accomplish the instructors' and students' learning goals for the courses. Now looking at the differences. Maintaining a teacher presence in an online course can be more challenging. Because the teacher presence is not there physical, they must make it up with recordings, course updates, and individualized group communication. Also, because creating a physical classroom environment online is difficult, the teacher must be aware of this and strive to make sure that the difference is met so that no student feels left out or left behind. We want all students to succeed. What are the advantages and disadvantages of both methods? An advantage of online education in a history course is that it provides flexibility to an active and modern techno-savvy generation, such as remote accessibility, which allows education to be tailor-fit to a busy schedule. This means students can learn how they want and when they want. Another advantage of online learning is that economic benefits students and institutions. Large maps for history courses, physical textbooks, and manipulatives are no longer needed, thereby limiting school expenditure and lessening student tuition. Now to the disadvantages of virtual or online learning. A disadvantage of virtual learning is a lack of tactile or hands-on learning due to a lack of physical location. Social studies classes like archaeology, geology, and others may be affected due to the lack of physical labs. Lastly, some research shows that students are reluctant to share opinions on religion or politics in online classes with classmates they've never met. So instructors must be present and conscious of this so that they work hard to make sure all students' views are welcome. Now with traditional learning. One of the main advantages is provides interactive and tactile experiences in a face-to-face settings due to the labs and activities that teachers present. Which leads us to number two. It also builds a closer environment of trust among students and teachers, thereby increasing participation. Now looking at traditional learning disadvantages. Traditional learning can be expensive for some students because of the textbooks, Scantrons, and the various other class materials that are needed, thus making attending school difficult for some students. It also is inflexible. Students cannot complete assignments when they want. This makes it hard for some students to attend to schools and get degrees. How do traditional and online learning apply to adult learning theories? In traditional classroom learning theories, adult theories, whether you're discussing andragogy, transformative learning, or experiential learning, the various learning methods are available. First, many were designed for traditional classrooms, so applying them is more straightforward than adapting them for online learning. An instructor can apply the problem-solution approach from andragogy, the critical thinking and self-relevancy-based learning of transformational or investigative hypothesis, and solution based on physical testing of experimentation. And adult learning can implement no matter the subject or theory used. Many educators may seek to blend these methods, weaving theories in various types of assignments to allow the face-to-face student to gain the most out of their classroom experience. Now looking at online learning and applying these methods. Applying adult theories in an online setting is also possible, but slightly more challenging. For example, Suppose an instructor wants students to investigate a problem and test a hypothesis like the experimentational theory. In that case, they may set up live chat rooms for groups to discuss research or test results from their implementations. Or if they're trying the transformative approach, an instructor may want to allow some way for the students to share their experiences on problems through a chat room or like Google Docs where all students can work on the assignment at the same time. If you notice similarities between the two, it is because the heart and soul of adult theories are participation, collaboration, and tactile practice. And online learning has a place in these theories. Still, an instructor must learn how to implement those principles so the virtual classroom is as close to the physical classroom as possible. What does a traditional classroom look like? Now to the physical implementation of a traditional classroom. I will use an example of a lesson I will have used in a classroom for American Revolution. I want my students to learn the causes of the revolution or why it happened. So in a traditional setting, I present short articles and a primary source photos. I then instruct each group to round robin read through the articles on the causes and pictures. This helps the auditory learner as the groups are reading aloud. The kinesthetic learner needs are met through the reading and looking through the photos, which also addresses the visual learner. Next, the group is to answer comprehension questions about sources to ensure all types of learners are met through the group conversation. And lastly, the groups discuss and answer, do you agree with the colonist issues with England or not? Or have you ever been angry at someone you felt was taking advantage of you? Afterward, we would discuss each group's answers and finish the class with a question such as, how was the time you were angry at similar or different to the colonists? This brings the relevancy to the subject, to the students' lives, and practices critical thinking. Another example is the Andrade method of posing a problem and asking the students to think of a solution critically and then revealing the issue related to the subject of study. For example, I would ask, if the government starts taxing you unfairly and making laws without your consent or vote, how would you address the problem? Try to say to petition the government or speak to them, to which I would respond, and if they ignore your petitions or say that you don't have a say, eventually the students would conclude that the only way is to fight, which is precisely the fate of the American colonists in 1776. This method of instruction allows for multiple benefits. It will enable collaboration between the groups as they discuss the issue, allowing everyone to participate. It will enable critical thinking and self-relevancy as they come up with their solutions to the proposed problem. Once revealed, the problem is the subject of study. They have a deeper understanding of the problem and the feelings of the people of the past, making it real to the students. Now looking at the online. For the first part, I will look at an online blended class, using the same lesson for continuity, the transition, the causes of the revolution to online learning. I would use grouping software such as Google Meets and set up groups to allow the students to group up, post the articles and primary sources previously listed in the links in the groups, and require comprehension questions to be submitted online. Then, to end, I would have them write reflections about what they learned and their process after the whole thing. This would allow the students to think about their thinking and what they are learning, which is critically important for students to have ownership of their learning. Now for online distance learning, or all completely online. Now, if I were dealing with a more advanced class, or let's say a distance class, I would use the Andrade Socrative style of asking questions or presenting a problem and allowing the students to pose solutions while probing the answer to ensure they are taking into account all sides and critically thinking. This would introduce the topic associated with the problem and then release the reading and materials for self-study. Now, if the class were utterly online and no class meetups were possible, I would assign the materials listed above and allow for discussion through message boards or required posts. I would culminate the topic by asking for an essay of moderate length, let's say around 2,000 words, explaining the problem and solution. So in this case, the colonies are being taxed without consent. What do we do? And I would finish up with a comparison of their solution from the beginning to the colonist solution and why. If any, are there any correlation or not? This lesson would meet several needs at once. All types of learners would be met. Students who'd like direct instructions and prefer independent study would also be addressed. But the point is, we must allow students to produce something to show learning. They must synthesize and produce something. Overall, online and traditional learning have their strengths and weaknesses, and both can be detrimental to students' learning if mishandled. But with careful selection in assignments and mediums, all students, no matter what type of learner in the classroom or at a distance, will meet their learning goals and objectives. Thank you.